everyone, my name is Janice Cool. We have been part of the Arrowsmith community for the last year. My husband and I have been raising Annalise. She's our granddaughter since she was 2. She had a pretty uneventful early childhood. Everything seemed fine except for her speech, which I thought she would grow into. But being that I have been a public school teacher for many years, 12 years in the regular classroom, and then I switched into special education, I realized by getting close to kindergarten that the speech issues were something that had raised concern. I had her tested by a speech pathologist, and I was assured that her comprehension of language was good, probably articulation problems. So her school journey started. In the early grades, kindergarten, grade 1 and 2, nothing glaring. Her speech continued. We had some speech therapy. But at that point in time, I realized that the speech was probably not due to some muscular structure in her mouth, but more from her brain. Then she entered grade 3, 4, and children with learning disabilities usually become visible in the system around grade 3, 4. Usually not till then unless they have a severe learning disability. But at grade 3, 4, the workload increases, the demands increase, and then things start to show up. So by grade 4, we asked to have a psych test done on her, and the school system, you wait almost a year for that to happen. When that happened, it showed she indeed did have some areas of concern. Because I was a teacher, I went in and suggested things, pencil grip to help her printing better, and perhaps a reduced expectation of workload, which helped somewhat. By the time she was in grade 4 or 5, she was blessed with a wonderful teacher, but a new teacher who really had no understanding or knowledge of learning disabilities. He was wonderful to work with. He worked with us. I would put in place techniques and accommodations for her, and he would go along with them. Unfortunately, for those of you who've had this journey, most of the public school system's way of dealing with learning disabilities is what we call accommodation, longer test times, bigger print, pulled out into small groups, which she did get. But unfortunately, the speech and the small resource groups was designed more for children who are really struggling with cognitive issues. In my experience, we've done a great job in public education, in the area of special education, for children that need instructional assistant help, and we've come a long way in special ed. Unfortunately, just learning disabilities do not qualify for instructional assistant help unless it's paired with a child who has the funding for that. So Annalie really didn't get it unless she was paired with a child who was performing much lower than her, and that didn't really address her learning disabilities at all. I had known about the Arrowsmith philosophy for about 10 years, long before it came to Winnipeg, and I was very interested in how neuroplasticity in our scientific community through the last 10 years especially has come to the forefront. We know the brain can be changed, and really to help children with learning disabilities, not just accommodate and make their school journey somewhat easier, but to get and address the actual learning disability, we need to change the way the brain works, and that can only be done through exercises which encourage neuroplasticity and the brain changing. When Arrowsmith came to Winnipeg, I gave it a few more years because we were trying to support her in the public system with, by then, a good group of friends. It came to the point where it just wasn't working anymore. And by grade 5, the struggles and the burden of the amount of work that was expected with very little support in the classroom caused me to investigate Arrowsmith further. The other thing is the public school classrooms have changed so much over the years. You have children with cognitive issues, you have children with behavioral issues, you have children are ESL, English as a second language. and many other issues. So the classroom is very much different than it was. And if you have a child with a learning disability who doesn't maybe have ADHD with it, and is a behavior problem, they kind of slide into the background of the classroom and their needs get not addressed. They usually present like, don't look at me, then they won't know I have something going wrong. Anyway, I visited Arrowsmith at the Learning Disabilities Association. I was very impressed with what I saw. I offered to do some volunteer work, met a lot of the children, and could not believe the kind of work that they were achieving, the happiness in the atmosphere, and the program being so solid. Then I decided to take my granddaughter to visit the school because it was a big year for her. After grade 5, you go to middle school. I didn't know how it would go because she had a chance then to move on with her friends, but I thought she should visit the Arrowsmith environment, which we did. Interestingly enough, she loved it instantly. She liked the small group. Her comment when I asked her, what do you like about going to visit this school, was it's so quiet. She was able to go a couple of times, and then we moved forward with the Arrowsmith assessment, which gave us a way more information on her learning disability than any kind of testing that was ever done in the school. Arrowsmith recommended a 2-year program for Annalie, and then we decided to start last September. I was concerned September might be hard because she would see all her friends walking to the school together and she would be going somewhere else. It was completely the opposite. I was quite caught off guard. She went and loved it instantly. She was very motivated because Arrowsmith asks that you do 45 minutes of homework each night to reinforce the exercises so that neuroplasticity takes place, and 90 minutes on the weekend. She was cooperative. We kept her in her dance quite a bit just so that she had the physical exercise in conjunction with all the brain work she was doing at Arrowsmith. The community was amazing. The parent group is amazing. The people at LDAM are amazing. They really care about the children. The program is monitored carefully by wonderful teachers in the classroom. There's constant feedback, and Annalie has never been happier at school since we embarked on that journey. The changes we started to see were that she could engage in conversation much more readily. She seemed more confident. She became more independent. None of this like, oh, you have to do your homework now with tears. She was responsive to do that independently. We noticed probably by late fall, her reading ability had increased in terms of confidence, flow, and able to take breaks at sustained times when they should happen. I think that that's probably the most important thing I've seen, is her ability to communicate so easily in a large group. Before, she would be hesitant. And her confidence for sure has increased dramatically since we began Arrowsmith. Her feedback is that she continues to like the atmosphere. It's so quiet for learning, fewer children, and the big thing she always says is everybody's so supportive. Quite often they have talked about their learning disabilities openly, and you feel like you're not alone, that somebody else has learning challenges that are being worked on. And I can't say enough about Barbara Arrowsmith Young's research. If you get a chance to read her book, The Woman That Changed Her Brain, it really goes into the detailed history of neuroplasticity and why this works. I can't be more positive about this whole school journey for us. And for anybody that's been on the journey where it's very disillusioning, where your child comes home, you know that they're falling behind, that you can't get the support for them, I highly urge you to look into Arrowsmith. It's probably the best thing we have ever done educationally for our child in our lifetime. Thank you.